If you're looking for a video that's calmer and not highly edited, and it's just really someone sitting down and having a conversation with you about things that they lived or they truly understand, I guess if you understand it, you probably lived it. And it's just calmer and feels more like a podcast, and it feels like this calm wave throughout the sea of YouTube that feels like super edited. You come to the right place. And my name is Luis. I am from Brazil, and I've been living abroad for almost a decade. I did keep an outline over here so I am not sidetracked too much, and I get to make sure that this video is somewhat concise. My interest in moving abroad started somewhere after my first international trip was to Japan in 2012, which was awesome. A couple weeks after, I was lucky enough to go to England to study English. And then the opportunity came around for me to go and do university abroad. I actually wanted to go back to England. I wanted to go to London, but for plenty of reasons, I ended up going to the US. I've been here for about 8 years now, so almost a decade. Oh, and I've also had like 4 months in Italy in 2018 studying Roman archaeology. That was fun. And if you're watching this video, there's a big chance that you're either 1, interested in this path of living abroad, 2, in this path, so you are also living abroad, and 3, you have gone through this path and now you're either back home or you're not, moving on to a different stage of your life that I can't think wouldn't fall into the first 2 categories. And this video is probably going to have something along the lines that resonates with every single one of you in these 3 buckets. And if there's one thing that I understand is this art of living abroad. And I know that every person's experience is different, right? But there are still going to be common themes. And I think in here I'm going to be showing these common themes, so you might resonate with the material over here. This episode is part of a 4 video series that I'm making that are all kind of talking to the camera about these, 4 topics that I've lived and I truly understand, that I hope that as you're listening, you get something valuable from, you get something that's actually useful to you. So, the art of living abroad. And I'm gonna try to start with the good things first. I tried to always hang out with natives in every single country that I've been to, that I spent time on, but this is definitely more true for the United States. So when I came over here, obviously I had Brazilian friends, but I always tried to hang out with Americans because I wanted to truly dive into the culture. Because Americans, y'all are interesting. I like you. That's not to say I didn't have Brazilian friends. I did have a couple handful of Brazilian friends here and there, but I do think that my core relationships were with American citizens. Because again, I truly wanted to understand the American culture. And I think that there's been a few categories of growth. And I think growth is really the word that comes with living abroad. Growth, different categories. First one that came to me was personal growth in the sense of how I see life and how I understand the world. And I think that the first 2 ideas that I'm not sure I would have learned had I not lived abroad. First of them was minimalism, living intentionally. The second one was financial literacy. So while my father would explain to me from a young age how credit cards actually worked, how debit cards worked, and he would give me these like bits here and there that had already given me a solid foundation on how money worked, I don't think that I would have truly learned, financial literacy had I not lived abroad. Because at some point you really have to take care of your own shit, and it's tough. You gotta be careful with where you're putting your money, and you gotta have a plan, right? I was lucky enough that I fall into a bucket of people that ended up learning from this. The second one is academics. I got my undergraduate degree in economics and my master's degree in business analytics, but with a focus in data analytics. I am not sure I would have gotten my master's degree if I weren't in the US. So much so that the reason I got my master's degree was because I wanted to stay in the US the right way. And I wanted to stay and I wanted to spend more time over here. And school over here is a lot different than in Brazil. And I think that for the most part, especially in high school, people get to be people a lot more. Whereas in Brazil, you're theoretically only studying for this one big test that would be the SAT, but it's a lot more complicated with a lot more subjects, with a lot more going on, and a lot less frequent once a year. Whereas the SAT, I think you can do it every month, every couple months, at the worst, twice a year. That the education level, the growth on the academic level, I think here, I still think that coming to the US was the right choice. for that type of growth. The cultural growth, I think, is the funniest one, because when you move into a different country, I remember when I first came to the US, in Brazil, we have this thing that guys would generally like do, obviously different hands, but they would do this and this to kind of like say yes, or they would do like some this or like some version of that, okay? Whereas in the US, it's like this whole like, you close it out and you pull it and you like, first time I did that, or like I saw that in school, like high school, I'm like, hey, nice to meet you, and I'm like ready to like, right? Guys are like, and I'm like, whoa, hold, fuck just happened. So anyway, that was a solid cultural difference. Another one was that, guys and girls here in the US, they say hi, or with a side hug. Whereas in Brazil, we just kiss everybody on the cheek. It's not really a kiss on the cheek, it's just like you kiss the air. We kind of touch the cheek. So it's like, hi, nice to meet you. Not a thing over here. Hilarious. 16-year-old Louise was like, oh. And I was completely oblivious to it for the first like 4 days until someone was like, so Louise, who are you into? I'm like, into? They're like, yeah, you like, I feel like you're flirting with all the girls. I'm like, no. And they're like, well, you greet everybody with like kissing their cheek, and like now everyone's like confused on who Louise likes, and I'm like, shit. So that type of thing, cultural difference. But I think as you grow older, now like 8 years later, the best part of all this is the dating situation. I've had a couple of relationships in Brazil, and comparing that to relationships in the US, the whole dating culture in the sense of like, let's go out for a date, let's make this a date, a proper date, doesn't seem as widespread in Brazil. So that cultural difference is truly interesting. So again, like just the cultural stuff, obviously I'm focusing now on the dating situation, but you can stretch that to food, you can stretch that to general relationships and friendships and so on. Challenges your mind, your view of the world. Fantastic. Like, it's awesome. It's the entire thing is just awesome. And then, on this topic of challenging you, it forces you to create a new family, like a new core circle. And in the US, I've lived in a couple different places, but then more recently, past 3 years in New York City. And I remember to meet my core group of friends now was like, I spent, 2-3 months kind of like going through groups and trying to sort out and find my people. And it was pretty interesting because it was not easy. And the way I ended up finding my group of friends was because I was living in this Airbnb and I was coming downstairs, I was gonna meet coworkers, and a guy behind me, it's pouring outside, a guy behind me comes like, hey man, is it raining outside? I'm like, yep, it's raining. And he's like, you got an umbrella? I'm like, I don't know you. Yeah, I have an extra umbrella. And then I joked to him, I was like, but I know where you live, so you should tell me, you're gonna give that back to me. Because obviously, same Airbnb. And he laughs it off. He's like, no, I got you. I go up, I grab the umbrella, thinking now that could have gone badly. But anyway, I go off the umbrella. I am going off to meet my coworkers. My coworkers cancel on me. And this guy is texting me. He's like, hey man, thank you so much for the umbrella. Please let me buy you a beer sometime. Like, I really appreciate you. Go. Dude, my plans just got canceled. How about now? And he's like, we're going to this rooftop. Do you want to come? I'm like, yeah. So then I head over there. We become great friends. He doesn't even live in the city. I become best friends with his cousin who's in the city and so on. Then I meet everybody, and that's how I met my group of friends. So life will hit you with random stuff when you're living abroad. That's all the good stuff. What about the trade-offs? When you're living abroad for a long time, you become a citizen of nowhere. When you're living abroad for a long time, you become a citizen of nowhere. You're always an outsider in some way or another, because if I'm over here, then, I'm still not American, although, culturally, I think I'm a lot closer to what I was 8 years ago, to like behaving like an American, but not really, because I'm still Brazilian, right? And when I go back to Brazil, the cultural differences are already wild to me. Like, I don't, the same example of like kissing on the cheek. No, I have a hard time with that. I'm much more reserved, much more. Like, people just like come and hug me and they're like, oh, I'm like, hi. And that happens, that truly happens. And you become an outsider. And your mind is going to function differently from, the people around you, no matter what you are, where you are. So that's the first thing. The second one is that you're going to watch your family grow older. And some people around you, around your family, will pass away. And that, I think, is the toughest one. Because you're gonna miss moments. You're going to miss moments. You're going to miss that afternoon coffee. on a Sunday. You're going to miss that late Saturday dinner. You're going to miss that random Tuesday night movie night. And I think that that's the toughest one. And I try to question myself, in those scenarios, whether the people that I love that are back home would want me to live differently. Because back home, the people that truly love me, they're like, you're going after your dreams, and we are okay with it. We'll support you. As long as that's what you want, we'll support you, and we're here for you. And I know that if I came back wanting to be here, that's not what they would want either. And not that I'm saying that you should base your decisions on what other people want from you, because you shouldn't. But it's, those are the people that you love. You care for them. You give a shit. The third one, my final one here, which is an interesting one. I have a few friends, again, like I said, a few Brazilian friends that I get to have these conversations with. And regarding finding partners, like lifelong partners, I realistically know very little about this. But I do have girl space friends that are very sweet, and we got into relationships, and we have the relationship that we get to sit down and have these deeper conversations. And some of them have raised to me, it's like, hey, I'm dating people from a different culture, and it occurs to me, like, if we marry and we have a kid, and where do we raise this kid? Does this kid, is the child going to be here in the US? Are we going back to Brazil? Are they going to speak both languages? Are they going to, what's the situation? Is my family coming over here? Her perspective, is my family coming over here to visit us often? What's the deal? It's a real fucking conversation that most people don't have to worry about. Most people that are within their countries, or at least a couple states away, they don't need that conversation, because it's all there. Whereas you go abroad and you find somebody, and all of a sudden you're just like, hey, the heck up, how are you gonna do this? And it's gonna be funny, since I'm posting this, I hope that in a few years I get to watch this with my wife, and I'm gonna be like, yeah, those conversations didn't matter at all. Or, oh shit, yes, those conversations really did matter, and we went through them. So on. So it's a real struggle, and it's a real thing that happens. But now that I presented the bad and the good and all of that, and again, these are just main points. You'll find plenty of material and content of people going on these topics. Would I do it again? 100%. But this is me. This is my life. This is how I live. These are the experiences that I've had. Would I do it again? Yes. Does it mean that, should you do it? I don't know. That was your decision. I can tell you that when I decided to live abroad, or to leave to go abroad, see, accent. It was a gut feeling. It was I remember I was in the back of my car, the back of the car my dad was driving. We were coming out of the agency. My dad was like, so is this it? Is this what you want? Is this how do you feel about this? And I had this I was concerned of shoot, I'm gonna leave, and I'm like, but there was this gut feeling. He's like, no, that's it. So much so that those disembodied moments that you're just kind of watching yourself say. That was one of those moments, because in my brain I was like, there's all this stuff going on, and but my soul was just yeah, go, do it. And I remember that very vividly. That was over 8 years ago, so I think that was actually a decade ago, because obviously there's a preparation period. Would I do it again? Yes. Now I've been trying the way I've been navigating this, and perhaps this is where you can also get something from it, is this is my life, and I've been trying to live a life that I am proud of, to get to see stories and to build stories that I am proud of, to get to live moments that I am proud of. And you perhaps can do the same, right? That's how I like to look back and see that, hey, I carved my path. That was my story. Maybe that's what drives you. But Luis, why the heck are you making this types of content? This is again 4 videos that I've been. There's someone calling me, and I don't want to answer. This is a part of 4 video series of me just talking to the camera. And in this channel, I talk about intentional living and intentional attention. I think that choosing the path that you want to take, if you get a chance to do so, that's intentional living. Choosing the area that you want to be in, that's intentional living. That's intentional attention. So that's kind of how it ties back to the content that I put out, and the common theme over there. So that's it. If the video was useful to you and if it was interesting in some way, shape, or form, please consider subscribing, liking. The reason for that is, one, I get to know that you enjoy this type of content, and two, it gets pushed to more people so they can possibly benefit from it too. All right, that's it. Take care. Bye.